Hello, and thanks for joining us on our first install of our old EVO Road King restoration. So yeah, here's the primary. The first thing we're going to do is change out all the seals. Yeah, and so we're just going to start removing everything. Here's the derby cover and the cover. We got to kind of get the foot pegs out of the way and everything like that. Changed out the spring here for the kickstand. Whenever you work on this kind of stuff, you got to make sure you have the right tools. And yeah, these things, there's a real trick getting these nuts off, because they are kind of glued on when they're put on with the Loctite. So an impact wrench there is really helpful. And you got to remember this thread's opposite direction for the clutch basket. And the front compensators, just normal threads. And yeah, get that clutch basket off and the chain and everything. Clean everything up. Inspect everything. That tensioner has to be changed out because it's all worn out. Here's the linkage for the shifter. Get that all taken off. And then a primary cover, get that all off. And that's the gear for the starter. And here's a lock that you put over the nut for the main pulley, or the sprocket, or the belt pulley. And again, it's opposite. And the thing is really sort of glued on there with the Loctite, the red Loctite. You definitely got to have good impact to get that off. You kind of inspect everything. Everything's just gunked up with that old glue. I soaked all that stuff with lacquer thinner. Inspecting everything, get that pulley off. Get everything laid out so I don't get confused, get lost. Here we were removing the stator, which is basically the generator, the alternator for the motorcycle. Just kind of going to hang that out of the way, so just get to the seals, access the seals. Here's the main sprocket seal. We're gonna just put a couple screws in the main crankshaft seal there. Get that off. I think somebody put this in backwards because this was leaking. This was our leak. We had a leak. We had a couple leaks, so this was in backwards. So I am going to remove it with a little bit of leverage. Put some leverage on that crankshaft there. Seemed to work pretty good. These vice grips. Grab a hold of those old screws. And pops right out of there. Again, these seals, none of these seals look too bad, but since I had this apart, might as well change everything out. Trying to find the leak. Yeah, they recommend changing all these parts when you replace them. There's the new seal. And it's good to have the right kind of tools when you're installing these things. It's a Jim's seal install tool. It's like a main bearing, tool there. Kind of put the two together, and it worked really well. Get that stator back on. Get that remounted. Make sure that everything's torqued down right. A little bit of blue Loctite on there. Again, I'm not a mechanic, and none of the stuff I'm doing might be completely right, but this is just for entertainment. Just explaining to you what I did. I just feel like if it's running, you gotta watch when you put this thing back on, this stator cover. It's very strong magnets. You don't want to get your fingers caught in there. Little spacer. Got to get that main shaft seal out of there. That pops out pretty easy. Replacing that. And that seemed to go in really easy. So rubber mallet. Nice and even all the way around. Gently tap that in. And then we have to go on to remove the starter seal. Just knock that out with a socket. It fits perfect in there. It comes out, comes right out. Again, none of these look too bad, but you can't always tell it just by looking. Gotta make sure the new one's in the right direction. A little bit of oil on there just to make sure it's gonna go in real nice. And then get a socket that fits just right, and it gets it in there nice and straight. Just kind of pound that in there. Gently tap it in. Kind of feel it go down. And you can kind of feel it bottom out. And we're going to take off the bearing race, the main shaft. This thing is wedged on there. You got to have the right tool to get it off. I mean, you could use an impact wrench on this, but I just did it by hand. Fortunately, there was space behind it where I could get this tool behind it, and the main thing we got to worry about also with this is when you pull this off, you don't know what you're going to get, because some people use grinders and stuff and they ruin that main shaft, and they put cuts all in it and mark it all up, and it ruins it. And fortunately, we inspected it and it is clean. Really nice. Really nice. So that was a pleasant surprise. Now we have to get the there's a seal inside the main gear there. The main shaft gear. Right. And there's a seal inside that gear. And you need this little tool here to grab it. It works real nice because what you have to do is sort of wedge it onto something. Once you get a hold of it, and it's coming out. So I just use a little piece of wood here and just
come on.
Popped it right out. Pop.
Yes.
And there it is. Probably as old as a motorcycle.
In the mountains of FLHRI, and he built the city.
Remove that spacer. And then they also make a tool to get that main seal off of there. But I just put a screw in there, and that worked really well too. Just pulled it right out. You just got to be careful when you do this, because if you go in too far with that drill bit, you're going to do some damage on that aluminum. I just kind of held the drill between my fingers. Fortunately, I didn't go in and penetrate too far. And there's a little O-ring back here, this little quad seal. Got to make sure you replace that. You don't want to miss that. I got that off.
It is marvelous what God has put into this word. Everything points to the work of God in Christ. Everything.
Just inspecting that, and then put a new one on. Now we're going to take off the shifter shaft seal. Actually, it looks pretty good. It's not leaking or anything, but I just figured since we're in there, you might as well replace it. Again, just got to screw in there very carefully. And a little bit of leverage. A couple pieces of wood. Work really nice. Just pop right out. You see it worked fine as the oil is leaking out of there. So it was actually holding the oil really well. So cover the splines on that shifter shaft there. Shifter dog, I don't know. Oil it up real good, get it into position, and just gently tap it in there with a socket. 1/2-inch drive socket. Gets right over that shaft real nice. Just gently tap it in there. Get rid of the tape. Put your washer back on. Get a new seal. Main shaft seal. I make a tool to put this on, install this, but I mean you can basically push it in with your thumb, so I just use kind of a 2x4 to kind of get it even all the way around. Tap, 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 tap. Spacer back on. Maybe I got make sure I hit that quad seal in there. That was a new quad seal. Just cleaning everything as I go. This thing was just covered with oil. I pulled it off. Covering up the splines here before I put in the new seal for the main drive gear seal, so it doesn't do any damage to the rubber. Just covering it with electrical tape. It seemed to work really good. They actually sell a sock that kind of goes over those splines, and I mean, this worked fine. And the same tool that I used to put the race on, install the race, main shaft race, I'm using to put the seal and install the seal. And it goes right in. Really nice with that. And then reinstalling the race, main shaft race, bearing race. And make sure you keep a little bit of space. I think it's like almost 1/8 of an inch behind that. So you can get your tool behind it if you ever go to remove it again. Put in the pulley. Make sure it's torqued down. Get everything reassembled here. The linkage for the shifter. Shifter arm. And a primary cover. Sure everything's torqued down. The proper specs. Get your starter gear back in there, torque that down, and clutch basket, compensator, primary chain, drive, get that all in there, and it goes in real nice. I changed out the tensioner because the other one was worn pretty good. Again, I had it apart, might as well. Stuff's not that expensive, so it's a nice little tool to help torque everything down. Kind of locks the chain, locks everything in place, and you can kind of torque it down. The clutch adjuster. Put a little clip pin there, and clip ring. You can adjust this clutch adjuster later because the derby cover comes right up and you can access it through the derby cover. You got to make sure that you have the right slack on the chain. So we did about 7/8, 5 to 7/8 of an inch in there. It's not supposed to be tight. You're supposed to have a little bit of slack in there, and it seated a little bit, it started a little bit. You want to get your fingers in there when you do that. Put the cover back on. Make sure everything's torqued down. Here's your inspection port there, and new gaskets all the way around, new seals, new gaskets all the way around. About a quart of oil, motor oil. Derby cover back on. Shifter linkage. New floorboard. These are more like stock floorboards. Close to it. They look more like stock. And then the shifter, the heel toe shifter. It's real nice to use that. Passenger floorboard. Get those on. And I have to tell you, if I could fill a pool full of this gear oil, I would get in it and swim around in it all day long. I don't know, I just love the smell of gear oil. Just reminds me of an old garage when I was a kid, you know, growing up, going to some old mechanic's garage, and we're refilling the oil. And currently there's no leaks. Everything looks good under the bike, so everything we did so far looks good. The proof will be after we get it started, get it running. All that oil gets hot. And these are all the extra parts. This is everything we've taken off so far. Well, and thanks for watching, and hopefully you can see our next stall of our old EVO restore.